All right, welcome back, everyone, or welcome if you haven't been here before. This is Found in Translation. I'm going to sit today because, as I think everybody knows, I'm in a boot and my foot's broken. But I have a good excuse because I'm going to be on my computer quite a bit today, showing you all what's going on. So, the goal of this class, I said the first week, this is more of a methodology class than it is a content class. Or in other words, we're learning how to do something rather than just like, here's some information. And so I have been giving a lot of information, but it's in the goal of you being able to go home and do stuff on your own to help you read the Bible differently and deeper and get more out of it. So I call that expanding our understanding of biblical words, and the metaphor that I've been using through the class is the idea of having a mental encyclopedia. So if you think about words at all, you probably think of yourself as having a mental dictionary, where you go and you look and here's the word, here's the definition. It's not what your brain does. It's way, way more complicated than that. It's much more like when you look something up in an encyclopedia and you see, oh, there's paragraphs or pages and pages of information on this. Your brain is doing that with every word in every language you know. And I could go into all of that, but that was literally all of our first week was spent on that, so we don't have time to do that again. But that's the idea. So in linguistic theory, that concept is called semantic range, or the idea that words have a range of meanings. And so we're working on trying to help us understand the range of meanings in the original languages of the Bible to help us kind of track more with what the biblical authors were writing. To do that, we're developing tools, and we have 3 so far. Our first tool was simply to read the Bible with an awareness of semantic range and to try and track with the patterns that are in the Bible itself and let those patterns inform how we understand the ways that the words are being used. So for example, a couple weeks ago we tracked with the word eyes in the Bible, and we saw in Genesis, God looked and behold, it was very good. And then the serpent tells Eve, when you eat the fruit, your eyes will be opened. She looked and saw that the fruit was good, and then she took and ate it. So there's this seeing in the Bible is not just seeing, it's seeing and evaluating. And when God is doing the seeing, good news. When a human being is doing the seeing, look out. Because their judgment is way off. And we tracked that same idea also through Judges and through 1 Samuel, and we saw that there's something going on there in the original language that's not there in English, I don't think. I don't have a connotation with eyes or seeing to necessarily mean evaluating. I might say, I see your point. But if I'm saying, oh, I see that chair, that's just a statement. I'm not implying anything. I think there is an implication in the original language. So that's our first tool. We're trying to follow those patterns and let them inform how we understand the words. Our second tool, what we looked at last week, is reading multiple translations. We looked at the problem that translating any language into any other language presents, and how some situations are easier than others, but there's no such thing as a perfect translation. And so you have to pick the right translation for the right situation. And in general, it's wise to just read more than one. And when you do, you'll start to notice differences across translations. And that's a good little flag to go, okay, something's going on here that I should research more. Something about this passage is just hard to translate for some reason, and I should look into that more. That's where we ended last week. I introduced what we're going to be talking about today, which is our third tool, and that is to get a little more serious and start using some scholarly resources. If you have a study Bible and you read those like notes at the bottom half of the page, you're already doing this. But I'm going to introduce you to what has been for me a total game changer. I am at the point right now where I don't want to read the Bible without using this tool. I doubt everyone, maybe even anyone in this room will be there. But this is so useful. It's really changed how I read, and I want to introduce it all to you all so that you can go home and you can do this as well. And that is Logos Bible software. So I'm going to bring it up. This is what we ended looking at last week. I'm going to go in depth on this. So if you have no idea what you're looking at, don't worry, I'll explain it. But I just want to first of all address, this is free. I'm in my browser right now. You can go and you can just Google Logos Bible software. Here you are. 20 years ago, you would have had to own 100 books to do what this website's doing. You can also download it, and there is a phone app. I have both. I think the browser version is actually the best one. You would think that the desktop app would be the best one, and I like the way this one runs a little bit better. There's also paid for versions with a lot more features that are really cool. It's also very expensive, but the free version already does more than you'll probably even want to do. So, so here we are. So let me explain what we're looking at. This tab is John 1:14 in the English Standard Version, and this is what's called an interlinear translation. What that means is you're seeing the English, and directly below the English is the original language. Below that is what's called a transliteration, which is where you take the original language and you write it using English letters. So I can actually read Greek letters, but I cannot read Hebrew letters at all. So if we were looking at the Old Testament, I would be very reliant on this line right here. And then below the transliteration this is what's called the lemma. Lemma is the most basic form of a word. So in English, I have the word run, but I could also have running. It's the same word, but if you didn't speak English, you'd be forgiven for thinking that I and me are different words, right? They don't share any sounds, they don't share any letters. We know it's the same word, I and me. It's just what it's doing in the sentence changes it. So if you're trying to do our first tool, which is tracking with patterns of words, you might even have this pulled up and not realize that you're looking at the same word because it changed its form somehow. So that's why I have the lemma on there. If you go home and you pull up Logos, which I hope you do, you won't see this. And that's because I've customized this. So there are tabs up here, and if you go to View, you can, and this one here that says interlinear, it's got a Hebrew letter and a Greek letter. You can click on that, and this is what I've selected. I've got the surface, that's the English, manuscript, that's the original, manuscript transliterated, so you actually can read what it is that you're looking at, and then lemma transliterated, so I can know what's the most basic form of the word. There's a bunch of stuff here I don't have checked. A bunch of that will be checked by default when you pull up Logos on your own. So it's going to look even more complicated than mine. Just from me using this tool, this is what I've found to be the most useful for me personally. You might decide, you know what, I can't read that. I might as well not have the manuscript on there. Right? Totally fine. You might decide, I think the root is important. Root is different from lemma. If I had the word runner, that's a different word than the word run, but run is the root word of runner. Or y'all, it's more grammar than you were hoping for today, probably. But there you go. Yeah, so you might decide you want that on there. Yeah. These down here, these are dictionary references. And so yeah, so there's more or less on here that you could have. I keep the hi, come on in, Joey. I keep the manuscript on there because it has these little numbers on it, which tells me that in Greek the words are ordered differently than they are in English. If you take that off, there's nothing in the transliteration that tells me that. It's probably never actually important, but I'm a nerd and I want to have that on there. So there you go. So you can see actually in the Greek it goes Kaio Logos and then this word and then this word, right? That's why it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You with me? So it's like Spanish. The noun comes before then never mind. This is not adjective verb or adjective noun. This is, so the verb comes after the direct object. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't speak Greek. I just learned how to read the letters one time. Did you have a question, Jay?
Greek doesn't have any spacing, right?
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that is it helps you, if you were to actually read the Greek, you can actually see how the translators are breaking down the words.
Yeah.
Because there is no natural spacing in the original Greek.
As I understand it, they don't have sentences either. It's just a block of paragraph, which is why sometimes you're reading translations and where the sentence ends is way different because they're having to guess how to make that work in English. Okay, so this is very cool. This already is very useful. You can buy Bibles that are interlinear that just look like this on paper. I have a Greek one at home. I don't use it anymore because I have this. And this is also more. So this is really cool, but it's not actually what I want to be focused on today. What I want to be focused on is their word study tool. So last week we were looking at the word dwelt in this passage. And we saw in lots of different translations it was dwelt, lived, made his home, moved into the neighborhood, depending on which end of the translation spectrum you were on. And we looked at, here's the original Greek, it's eskenosin, or the lemma, skenao. You see how you might miss that if you didn't have the lemma on there. So let's say you want to actually look at that word and say, what is happening here in the Greek? You don't have to learn Greek to do it. Instead, you just right-click on it. This menu will pop up. Most of this stuff is unavailable to you unless you pay. But this one, which is what I want to use today, is not. This is free. It has a little circle by it. And then over here, we've got another little circle, and it says Bible Word Study. And when you click on this, it opens up a whole new tab. And this shows me, first of all, up here we've got the definition of the lemma, which is nice. But more interesting, I think, is down here, where it shows me every time this word appears in the New Testament and every way it has been translated in the ESV. So here we've got, it only appears 5 times in the New Testament. 3 out of 5 times it's translated dwell. 1 time it's translated dwelt, which is the same word. And 1 time it's translated will shelter them with his presence. Interesting, yeah? This, so what I like to do, this is pretty straightforward, right? It means to live, yeah? This one is a little bit interesting. We could go there. This is from Revelation 7:15, and we could see what's happening. Hello? Oh, it's going to be slow on me today. Never mind. We're not going to do that. So I know just from using this a lot, what's happening here is there are several words together that the phrase altogether means will shelter them with his presence, and there's no easy like this is what eskenosin is doing in that phrase, so they just highlight the whole phrase. We'll see that later today too. I'll look at that a little closer. So this you can go and you can look at how it's translated every way. This only appears 5 times. It's pretty easy. Oh, there we go. It caught up finally. Let's go back. Okay. What if I want to look at something a little more prominent in the New Testament? Let's try glory. Here we go. I'm going to come to the circle. I'm going to click Bible Word Study. It's going to keep that tab open in case I want to compare words for some reason. We don't need it though, so I'm going to close it. And here we go. 166 times glory shows up. 152 of those times it's translated glory. So pretty reliably glory. And then sometimes it shows up as honor or glorious or praise, brightness, all kind of the same idea, right? Not everything is this neat. Often, especially if you're reading multiple translations and you go, what the heck? Why is this so different from that? Well, if you go and use this tool, you'll see, boy, this word shows up a lot of different ways. And if you're trying to build up your understanding of that word's semantic range, this is a great way to do it. I've got a passage I want to look at to help us dig into practice using this. But before I go there, I just want to open it up. Are there questions about anything that you're looking at? Because this is a lot. Jay.
Is there anything in Logos about the quality of the translation? I know, at least academically, there are a variety of qualities of translations. So like the NIV, for example, meets the top standards of translations, whereas the ESV does not, for example.
If there is, I'm unaware of it. I don't know how to look at it. There are only a few translations, at least in the free version of Logos, that actually let you do this transliteration, interlinear looking at. You can look at other translations. So if I pull up, say, NLT, New Living Translation, there's not going to be any interlinear here. And part of the reason for that is this is a thought for thought translation, or a man, it's going to be real slow on us today. So it won't line up word for word. So it really wouldn't make any sense to have an interlinear with something like that, or with something like the Message that's on the paraphrase end of the spectrum. I'm going to go back to ESV and hopefully it'll work with me. Oh boy. Let's here. So we're going to go back to this. Any other questions before we go on? Okay, cool. So here's the passage I want to look at. It's Matthew 5:5. This is from the Sermon on the Mount. Joel, you brought this up, I think, in our first week, and I said we're going to get to this. We're going to look at it in depth. Here we are. So here I've got three different translations. These are from our both ends of the translation spectrum and the middle. So, Katie, will you read the ESV for us, please?
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Thank you. Carrie, you want the NLT?
God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth.
All right. Thank you. And will you read the Message? Yeah, you.
Oh, you're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourself proud owners of everything that you can't be bought.
Okay. So, using our second tool here, does anything jump out at you and say, I want to know what's going on there. I want to look into that. What are you noticing?
First of all, this is a very great verse because he always says I'm meek, and that's his description of me. And
Okay.
the first few years I got mad, but it's actually supposed to be a good thing. So it's like totally different. The third verse is basically saying that just being content with who you are versus focusing on, to me, being meek and being humble.
Okay.
To me, that's like two totally different.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a poor translation.
Which one?
The Message. I don't think that is.
You're blessed when you're content with just who you are? You don't like that?
I don't like the translation of it.
Okay.
I disagree.
Yeah. All right. So meek, humble, content with just who you are, right? I agree. That one jumps out at me. I have never used the word meek in my life. And humble and content with just who you are, I might think of that as kind of synonymous, but there's something going on there I want to dig deeper into. Yeah, that's one of the two that I was thinking. Is there something else?
Well, there's just one popular usage that I point out to my students sometimes when we talk about this. The only time I've ever heard meek used popularly is in The Wizard of Oz, when she presents herself to the wizard and says, I'm Dorothy, meek and mild.
There you go.
Right? And then everyone's like, oh yeah, I do remember that.
Okay, there you go.
But that lines up with this because I had looked up the word meek as meaning like having strength with restraint in using it.
Okay,
Is
so
what meek, I guess the more
so
modern
maybe
name.
gentle would be a good synonym, right?
Yeah. But you know when you think about how Dorothy used it and how it's being used here,
Yeah.
that's more in consonance.
Yeah. I like gentle because it implies strength. Gentleness is not weakness. If you're weak, you're just weak. If you're gentle, you could be using some strength, but you're not. And so if that's what meek means here, cool. Do you want to reiterate what you said week 1?
No.
Oh, okay.
I do.
No, that's fine. What are you thinking?
What I'm thinking, you know, most of the Beatitudes are, if you're poor in this, you'll be rich in this later.
Yeah.
Well, this meek, you will inherit the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the opposite of ambitious. And if you're ambitious, you try to grab it all.
Sure.
And it's like, no, you're going to get the earth. You'll just inherit it.
So maybe content.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Is there anything else across these translations that jumps out to y'all and makes you think I should look into that more?
Just the idea of it's more like a phrase, inherit the earth, whole earth.
Yeah.
And then in the end, everything that can't be bought.
Yes. That's the other one that jumped out to me. Earth, whole earth, everything that can't be bought.
There's a big
Something's going on there. Yeah. So let's look at those two in the original. See what's going on. Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. Let me see if I can get on the secret one. Sorry, everyone. There we go. Please stand by. Sorry. That's not it.
Does the desktop app work without internet?
It may.
Just as a suggestion.
We're connected now, so this should, yeah. There we go. Okay. This is not where we were. Matthew 5:5. There we go. Okay. So, here we go. Blessed are the meek. The Greek here is praeis, or praus, dilemma. So let's take a look. See what's actually going on here. You can go away. This word only appears 4 times in the whole New Testament. In the ESV, it appears twice as gentle, once as humble, and once as meek. So something that I have found useful when I do this, you see down here it's got the verse that it's in, and the word is highlighted. So I like to just read the verse, and when I get to that highlighted word, say this. And then that will help me kind of build a profile of what this word actually means to the original speakers. So I'm going to do that here. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am praus and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So whatever praus is, it has to do with being lowly in heart, finding rest. I'm liking gentle, okay? But let your adorning be hidden, be the hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a praus and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. This is from 1 Peter. Peter's talking about how women in the church are dressing really garishly, trying to draw attention to themselves. And his point here is, let your adorning not be jewelry and makeup and fine dresses and whatever. Let it be whatever a praus and quiet spirit is. And God will see that and see that it's very precious. Just side note, again, we have seeing and evaluating going on with God. But yeah, so there we go. That's 2. Let's look at humble here. This is from Matthew 21. Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, praus, and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. So here comes your king, but he's not on a white stallion. He's on a donkey, a beast of burden, and that makes him praus. Everybody with me? All right. And then the one we were looking at here. Blessed are the praus, for they will inherit the earth. So we're getting kind of a profile here. It has to do, I think, humility and gentleness. We're in that range. But there's one word, it seems, in Greek that kind of covers all those bases, where we need maybe 3 or 4 in English.
And there's almost like a rabbit hole quality to this, because now I think, okay, so if praus can be translated to humble.
Yes.
Well, I know humble and humility is used many, many times, so there must be another word
Correct.
that translates to humble in a more specific sense.
Yep.
Right? So yeah, there's like this rabbit hole that you can go down.
Absolutely. Yes. You can get very lost in this. And I'm going to try not to do that, but I'm just going to show you. If you come up here to where we have praus selected up here, and you type in humble, here's all the times humble shows up in the Greek. It's 19 times in the ESV. If you're reading a different translation, it may be more, maybe fewer. And here's all of the Greek words that get translated as humble. So you can go the other way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad is a worship minister. And when I introduced him to this, he's like, I'm going to go look up worship. I'm going to go look up sing. I'm going to look at, he's like, I got to see, all the stuff here. So if you're interested, you can go either way. Yeah. And there's Hebrew here too. If you want to look at the Old Testament, it shows up a lot more in the Old Testament, 60 times. Humble shows up. And look, there's a huge spread of Hebrew words that get translated as humble. So, let me go back to this, because there's one more thing I want to point out. So, this is what I think is most interesting. This section here, with all the different translations. But you can also come up here. Here is the word praus. Here's the transliteration, so you know how to say it. And here's a little definition: gentle, meek, humble. But there's also this. There will be 1 or 2 dictionaries that are built into Logos for free that you can click on and take a look at. So this is a concise dictionary of the words in the Greek Testament and the Hebrew Bible, entry 4,239. Concise. All right. Here we are, praus. Here's a little easier way to help you pronounce it. Praus. Yeah. And this is apparently a primitive word. Primitive meaning it's not from some other root. Yeah. So apparently a primitive word, mild, as in not spicy. Yeah? So by implication, humble, meek. And then usually there will be something like this. See also, there's another word here, praos, used in certain parts to mean gentle, meek. Yeah. And again, you can get really lost here if you're into that kind of thing.
And that's all the free version? That's all
this is all free. I don't pay them a cent. You can do this right now on your phone if you want to. Again, 20 years ago, I would have had to have had a doctorate and a library to do what I'm doing right now. I mean, just in all that, you would have to. There's no other way you'd have all the resources to do this. So yeah, there you go. There's praus, blessed are the meek. Let's take a look at earth. Yeah, they shall inherit the earth. This is the other one we were looking at. This one's going to take us a little bit longer. Here we go, 250 times in the New Testament, this word shows up. The lemma here is ge. And I'm going to skip this because I want to show how it unfolds for you. So I'm going to come back here for a second and tell you my English encyclopedia. When I hear the word earth, this is what it does. I think planet, the planet Earth. Yeah? So could be this is what Jesus is saying, but let's take a look at the word he uses and find out. So here we go. 168 times. So a majority, something like 2/3 of the time, it's translated earth. And we get phrases like this. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the Ge. I have not come to bring peace but a sword. At that time, Jesus declared, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and Ge. For just as Jonah was 3 days in the night and 3 days and nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and nights in the heart of the Ge. I'm fine with earth in these sentences. How are y'all doing? This makes sense to me. It's the realm that is not heaven, right? Heaven and Ge. You can be in the earth. You can be in the Ge, apparently. Okay? Katie.
I could also read that as like the spiritual realm of the earth,
You could.
like apart from heaven. So it's not heaven.
Yes. Which would include things like the moon and Mars, right?
True.
If you're thinking in spiritual terms,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it could.
It could.
It could. There could be a different spiritual realm. in
Correct.
that area.
Yeah. We don't know, do we? I guess. So, we could keep going here. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on Ge will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on Ge will be loosed in heaven. Again, there's that spiritual reality element to it. But if you're going to be what?
That one seems more like concrete, though.
If you're going to be in the heart of the Ge, in the way that Jonah was in the heart of the fish, that to me sounds like it's a literal place. But let's keep going, because there's also a bunch of other ways this is translated. So here's 44 times, not an insignificant number. It's translated land. Truly I say to you, it will be more bearable on the day of judgment for the Ge of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town. So it can mean the place that is, as opposed to heaven, but it can also mean, apparently, a town. Right? The Ge of Knoxville. Right? I tell you, again, it will be more tolerable for the Ge of Sodom and Gomorrah. The boat by this time was a long way from the Ge. So Ge as opposed to heaven, but also Ge as opposed to water. Yeah? So like shoreline. That's Ge. When you crossed over, they came to the Ge of Gennesaret. And you, O Bethlehem, in the Ge of Judah. Not a town, right? That's a whole region. So Ge can be like a zone on a map. All right. Let's look at one more here. This is from the parable of the sower. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much Ge. And immediately they sprang up since they had no depth of Ge. So, dirt. Earth, for me in English, you could get me here if you're in the right context. You could not get me there. Yeah? So this word, it means land, earth, dirt, like bordered region or town. Yeah? This is a little bit broader than my earth idea. So here's what you might call an expanded encyclopedia rendering. Blessed are the mild, humble, meek, gentle, because they will inherit the dirt, land, earth territory. And I want to end today by looking ahead to our fourth and final tool for expanding our biblical encyclopedias, and ask us to consider who Jesus is talking to when he says this. The citizens of Israel at this time are mostly what we would call today sharecroppers. That is, they work farmland that they do not own. The land, which belonged maybe to great-great-grandparents, is owned by an oppressive foreign government in the form of Rome. And Jesus says to those people, blessed are the mild, because they're going to inherit the ge. So here's the Roman Empire, right? We're talking about right over there on the east coast of the Mediterranean Sea. This word ge, it can mean territory, literally the dirt under your feet. You're going to inherit this. Everybody with me? So let me give you my thoughts, and then I'll want to hear from everybody as we close. This is our fourth tool. We're going to try to read within awareness that the cultures to whom the Bible was written and in which the Bible was written are really, really different from 2024 USA. And so our first impression might be right, might be way off. So when I read with that in mind, everything I just said about the who owns the land, the ge, this feels way more personal and immediate to me than it has when I have read it in the past. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Yeah, okay, sometime in the new creation, we're going to be in charge of the planet. Cool. You know? If I understand ge to mean this, that feels a lot more like, whew, big promise, Jesus. A lot's going to have to change for me to inherit this. And if you're looking for a military messiah to boot Rome out of Israel, this sounds like your guy. However, who is going to inherit? Yeah. This is, at the same time, seems to me really explicitly non-violent. He doesn't say, blessed are the valiant, because you're going to win your land back. How is an original hearer to take this statement? I mean, what do you do with this if you're that sharecropper in the audience hearing Jesus say this?
You probably walk away because
maybe so.
Rome has oppressed you for generations.
Yeah.
So what? Blessed are the weak, the meek,
Right.
the mild.
Yeah.
How's that working out for us?
Right. It's like, at best you would go, okay, how does that work? Tell me more. Well, I need some more information here, Jesus.
Yeah.
How are the meek going to inherit this? Yes?
You know, we talk about, we did a public speaking unit with my fifth graders, and it was the whole thing, like, how do you start it off? You start off with a hook.
Yep.
Right? And
I teach the same thing.
Right? So there's
Yeah.
lots of different hooks that you can use, one of them being a provocative statement. Right? So I think it's
And Jesus was real good at that.
Right, yeah. So it's no, like understanding kind of how
Yeah.
this impacted that immediate culture that he was speaking to, right?
Right.
I mean, talk about a provocative statement, right? It goes against all logic of the time, right?
Right. And you all are probably much smarter than I am, but I didn't see it until I started doing this. And when I did, I was like, oh man, what is Jesus doing here? He's hooking them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In all your classes you've been, the underlying thing was what we see as people versus what God sees when he's talking to us, and it's always a spiritual aspect of it. So I think that's just one of those things we would have to ask the Holy Spirit to like reveal to us. What is their deep meaning about behind this? Because even it's been years of even learning the word meek for me, because when I first heard it, I was like, that's weak.
Right.
But it's like the gentleman said back there, it's strength, it's restraint.
Yeah.
And that is blessings within being humble.
Yeah.
So I don't know spiritually what God was truly saying, and we just have to ask him to reveal those to us.
Yeah. My last thought here is I want to keep going. What does blessed mean? What's inherit mean? Right? Right? Let's. I mean, we don't have time today, but this. you all are probably not as nerdy as I am, but when I start getting into this, I go, let's spend all day here. And you can. This was one verse out of Matthew that we just spent this 40-ish minutes on together, right? You can get lost here, and there's a lot that we didn't do. Yes, Joy.
But I'm a gardener, and it says some seed fell on the ground, but it found no soil and no earth. And I thought,
Yeah.
what's the difference between ground and soil? So I go off on that.
There wasn't in Greek. They used the same word there. That's what I was just. Yeah. Let's go back to that. Right here.
Rocky ground where they did not have much soil. So
Yeah.
what's ground? What is ground?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, let's find out. Fell on the path. Other seed fell on rocks. It fell on rocks. Yeah. So again, also, this is another reason I keep the actual Greek on mine. This arrow right here tells me that this Greek word, Petro, which Peter, right? Or Peter gets his name, is translated as two words in the ESV, rocky ground. Yep. So there you go. Any other questions? We're over time, but I know this is a whole new world. All right. Thank you all very much for coming.